Hi again, everybody, and welcome to Inside Golf. I'm Harry Donahue. Coming up on today's show, we're going to be talking about things that aren't around anymore. What are those things? Golf courses in the Philadelphia area. The list is longer than you may think. Courses that started and closed, disappeared. Some courses moved with a new name. We're going to run down the list, and as I said, it's pretty lengthy. Joining us will be Pete Trenum. He's the former head professional at St. David's Golf Club, and Joe Bausch. Joe is a golf club historian and also teaches chemistry at Villanova University. We're here at St. David's, and we're talking about golf courses no longer around. Next on Inside Golf.
Inside Golf is presented by Destination Montco Golf. 54 courses, 300,000 yards. Check them out at montcogolf.com. By the First Tee of Philadelphia. The First Tee helps young men and women become better golfers, but most important, better people. Get involved. Visit thefirstteephiladelphia.org. By the Golf Association of Philadelphia, GAP, celebrating amateur golf since 1897. By Jersey Man Magazine, it's a Jersey way of life. And by Philly Man Magazine, bringing it to Broad Street. By the Haverford Trust Company. Quality is in our DNA. And by Inside Golf's partner since 1998, the Philadelphia Section PGA. Experts in the game and business of golf. Take time to thank your local PGA golf professional.
Golf is the great equalizer. For many, this journey is an escape from reality. A chance to be part of a team. A career opportunity. PGA Reach impacts lives through golf by lifting people up, giving them hope, and sending them down an alternate path that they never saw coming. With PGA Reach Philadelphia, as in life and in golf, the most important shot you take is the next one.
Welcome back. Inside Golf continues on a beautiful day at St. David's Golf Club. And my guest today to talk about courses that aren't around anymore. No stranger to the program, Pete Trenum. Pete, thanks for having us at St. David's, where you spent, almost 30 years as the head professional.
29 years.
Now you're just out here enjoying the place.
I am.
Not that you didn't beforehand, but a little bit different
I
perspective.
always enjoyed it.
I understand. And Joe Bausch is with us. Joe, as you can tell from his shirt, is connected to Villanova. He is not only connected, but in addition to being a professor of chemistry, he is the co-chairman of the department at Villanova. You've been there, almost 25 years, Joe?
Yes.
Well, and you are an historian. I mean, Pete is the historian for the Philadelphia section of the PGA of America and deals pretty much, Pete, I guess you could say, in terms of people,
That's right.
personalities, and golf professionals in the history, the long history of the section. Where, Joe, you kind of specialize in where those people played. And in some cases, like we're going to talk about today, they're not around anymore.
Yes.
A lot of courses. I was kind of surprised, Pete. You compiled, with Joe's help, a list of how many courses that aren't around anymore.
I've got 127 courses in the Philadelphia section, which is a pretty large area. The eastern half of Pennsylvania, the southern half of New Jersey, and the state of Delaware.
And how far back does that go, those 127?
1893.
And some of them just either disappeared, a lot of courses moved and changed their names, but that's not included in the list, or
Well,
is it?
if the course isn't there, like Marion Golf Club started over in Haverford, and then they moved to where we now know, so that's on the list because that course doesn't exist anymore.
Right.
So, and like St. David's, we're at our third location. We started in 1897 over where on Fenimore Lane, right over here where Eastern College is. We were there a couple years, and then the man that owned the property wanted to develop the ground, and so we had to move, so we moved over on Lancaster Pike and leased ground over there where, you know, Route 30 went right through the middle of the golf course, and the Roaring 20s, money got easy or whatever, the land prices went up and the rent went up, and so we were able to buy this ground here, and we moved here in 27. So, and then that became Mainline Golf Club until the early 60s, and then the land got too valuable, as happens, and it wound up being sold off for a Sears store and an apartment complex and other things.
Joe, what amazes me as you look back at the courses that were developed in the Philadelphia area, some of them not around anymore, a lot of them still around and doing well. That era of early 1900s up until the mid-20s or later, a lot of golf courses were discovered and started in play for members. And it amazes me, how did they build those courses back then? We know what they do now with bulldozers and everything else from a construction standpoint. But back in those days, I mean, they just attached, plows and hoes to the horses.
Correct.
And got it done and moved earth that way. I mean, and they did it in a short period of time where maybe within a year and a half of construction, members were able to go out there and play golf.
Yes, some courses took longer than that, but yeah, before we had the heavy earth moving equipment, it was done in a very simple means. And you can generally tell those old school type of golf courses, you can see that they're kind of using the terrain that presented to them, that not much dirt has been moved. These days, you can tell a modern golf course frequently because of, you can tell the amount of dirt that has been moved.
How many courses were there back, say, at the turn of the century up until 1930, actually located within the city limits of Philadelphia? I know today there's only two private clubs, Bala out off of City Line Avenue, and Union League at Tarsdale, which is up in the northeast part of the city. Were there more than that within the actual city limits?
Yes, there were more than that.
Well, you'd have to try to think about Philadelphia Country Club and Aronimink, which started out at Belmont Golf Association at the Belmont Cricket Club, Stanton Country Club, and of course the original Cedarbrook course was in a city of within the city limits.
How about, for instance, in South Philadelphia? Was there anything down? No, FDR is a city-owned venue down in near the stadium complex.
Right.
Was that a private golf course before that?
No, that was a city golf course. It opened in July of 1940, and it was originally called League Island Golf Course because it's on League Island. And then I believe after President FDR passed away, that park got renamed FDR Park, and then somewhere along the line, League Island Golf Course got renamed FDR.
Okay, we're talking about courses that no longer are around. Give me some names.
Oh, there's another course.
Another city course?
Yeah, Philadelphia Cricket Club, which still has 9 holes in the clubhouse.
Yeah, that technically is within the city limits. So there's 2.5 golf
Chestnut
courses.
Hill, but it's in the city of limit.
And St. Martin's at the time when it opened, that was the only property they had to play golf, right? And a U.S. Open was held there twice, right? Yeah. The years are
1903, I think, and 1907, but
close.
And St. Martin's is now still a 9-hole course.
It was 1910 because Willie Anderson was the pro there and had won the tournament 4 times.
Yes.
He came there as a pro, hoping to know the course well enough to win a 5th one.
And then became the first American to win the U.S. Open a couple of years after that up at Brookline.
Correct.
And then Johnny McDermott.
First American.
Johnny McDermott.
Right. In 11 and 12.
Right, and Johnny caddied at Aronimink, I believe, when it was in West Philadelphia.
He did. That's where he started.
That's right.
How about in the nearby suburbs?
I'll give you one. Hardly anybody knows that Villanova had a golf course, a 9-hole golf course, and I discovered this accidentally when I was researching the 1930 USAM at Marion, and I was looking through the Philadelphia Inquirer on microfilm, and on the big picture page they had is a picture of Father Heron opening tee shot on the Friday of the U.S. Amateur. The quarterfinal matches were going on, and Villanova opened up a 9-hole golf course on campus.
Where is that located now?
It's
under
gone.
Some residence hall?
Under some residence halls and some other buildings.
When did they do away with the golf course?
That, I believe it or not, have not been able to figure out, but it did not last long. I think it was gone by like 34, 35.
How about that? And it was open to play for students and faculty and
That is my understanding. I don't have a lot on it, although a rather famous person in the history of U.S. golf, Joe Dye, he was writing for the Evening Bulletin at the time. He wrote an article on the opening of the golf course.
How about that?
It was not anything fancy from what I could tell. It was a 9-hole course. I think it was kind of home built, but we had a course at the university. So Father Peter, if you're checking in on Inside Golf, now you know, we used to have a golf course.
Right, yeah. Right now they're busy with dormitories and
Yes.
classrooms and everything else. Golf probably not on their priority list for expansion. Let's talk in the last minute of this segment. Let's talk a little bit about some prominent courses that existed, like I say, in the suburbs that aren't around anymore. Didn't move anywhere else. They just kind of disappeared from the map.
I think a real good one, and Pete and I talked about this one before we began the show, was Tredyffrin Country Club, just farther down the road here on Route 30. It was an Alex Finlay design course that opened in 1920. It had all kinds of big local tournaments at it, on it, and it nicely ties together with this club, St. David's. How
It went broke because of St. David's, because of the Depression, and then there was World War II. People had trouble getting out here with the gas rationing and stuff like that, and both were struggling. The St. David's members made a deal with the members at Tredyffrin. Some of the members said, if 50 or more of you come to St. David's, we won't charge you any initiation fee. So more than 50 left Tredyffrin, came here. Within a couple of years, Tredyffrin was out of business.
It was history.
Yeah.
How about that? Okay. Well, listen, stay with us. Back in just a moment with Pete and Joe. We're talking about golf courses that aren't around anymore. That's next on Inside Golf.
Everyone is looking for something. Consistency. Quality. Peace of mind. Found. The Haverford Trust Company.
Ready? Fire!
Whoa! Hey, do you guys want to come with us?
Welcome back. We continue Inside Golf today on a perfect day for the game of golf and a pretty nice day to talk about it as well. We're at St. David's Golf Club with Pete Trenum, who is the former pro here at St. David's for almost 30 years, and of course an historian for the Philadelphia section of the PGA and St. David's, and Joe Bausch. He is a professor of chemistry at Villanova University, but he also has a sidebar interest in golf club history in the Philadelphia area. Glad you two guys could join us here in a beautiful setting at St. David's. We were talking about clubs that aren't around anymore in the city, maybe the surrounding city area. How about in South Jersey, Joe? Let's go down the shore, as they like to say, and take a look at some courses. Of course, Atlantic City's been around forever, Seaview around forever. Were there any other courses like that don't exist anymore?
one of the earliest ones down there was Cape May Golf Club. And so if you look on all of the sites that are digitized, the Cape May Golf Club got tons of attention. I don't know if it was necessarily a great golf course, but the more we've learned about some of the courses early on that got lots of attention is one of the big golf writers in this area was William Evans. And I learned from seeing scores in tournaments, he was a member at Cape May. Cape May got lots of
a lot of publicity
in the newspapers that he wrote for. He was also a member at the Country Club of Lansdowne, which is a big club here in the burbs that's no longer around.
In Havertown.
In Havertown. He was a member at that course. So those two got a lot of ink.
They knew what they were doing when they invited Mr. Evans in as a member, right? You know, one course that's still around under the name of Great Bay, a lot of people play it right off the Garden State Parkway in Summers Point. I believe it was originally called Summers Point Golf Club. And Willie Park, if I'm not mistaken, a renowned Scottish architect, Willie Park Jr., I think, laid out the original 18 there. Am I right?
You have that correct.
Okay, and that's changed over the years too, I think. I think maybe did George Fazio maybe have something to do with that?
There, some other people were there, but most of what was at the Great Bay Country Club is still intact.
That's amazing. And Willie Park Jr. also did one of the courses, the blue or the white, if I'm not mistaken, up at State College.
Correct.
At Penn State.
He's one of my favorite architects, and through the work that I've done on microfilm, I was able to show that he was sort of a forgotten man on how much work he did here in Philadelphia. And word of mouth on how golf courses developed is just not reliable. So if you'd have talked to anybody 15, 20 years ago when Ashbourne Country Club was around, nobody talked about that being a Willie Park Jr. course. It was.
I didn't know that either.
A great club around here, Philmont, has come around now with the new ownership and recognized that the North Course at Philmont is a Willie Park Jr. course.
That's one of the top golf courses in the area, any area, right, Pete?
Yeah, it is.
The North Course at Philmont, that's also a Willie Park Jr.
Another lost golf course is Roxborough Country Club. They used to call that the Alpine Country Club because it was so hilly. That was a Willie Park Jr. design.
Was it located within the city limits?
It was in the city limits
like
of
up
Roxborough.
on Ridge Avenue, Henry
yes,
Avenue?
in the real hilly area there. So Willie Park Jr. did a lot more. He must not have had a good
If I'm
press
not
relation.
mistaken, Willie Park Jr. also had something to do with Port Rush, where they're going to have the Open Championship there. Yeah, I know Harry Colt was involved in that, I believe, another renowned British architect. But I think Willie Park Jr. also may have had a hand because a lot of these guys had their buddies come in and give them an idea or two. And that's true with some of the great courses.
Sometimes they're
on this
brought
side.
in to make little alterations or whatever like that. Maybe because they're going to have a British Open or they're going to have something or whatever, or, you know.
Right.
It's like Philadelphia Country Club's interesting. When the course that we know was built, it was built by William Flynn, and when William Flynn built it, the approaches all had a little slope kick one way or the other. So if you landed short, you might kick into a bunker, and the members hated it. So they brought in Perry Maxwell, and he softened the approaches. So if you landed short, you'd kick onto the green. And then in 1939, when they had the U.S. Open, they decided this wasn't difficult enough, so they brought Flynn back and had him they called it tighten up the approaches and make it more difficult for the stars that were going to come.
That's amazing. So Flynn was Mr. Tough Guy. Perry Maxwell kind of softened things up.
Maybe it depends.
Where's it stand now? Is it back to still the Flynn 39 touch-up?
Yeah,
to some degree.
There's been some different. Yeah, yes, but the bunkers are closer in, I think, in front maybe than they were. He tightened up the approaches.
Let's talk a little bit about some courses that by name are still around but aren't in the same location. And Overbrook comes to mind. Overbrook for years was located right outside of the city limits on Lancaster Pike, which is now the site of
It was on
Lankenau Hospital.
and Wynwood. Yeah.
Yeah, and it moved out to Bryn Mawr. We were talking about this in the 50s.
About
sometime.
55 or 54. Yeah.
Cedarbrook did the same thing. We talked about Cedarbrook earlier, but right there along Cheltenham Avenue, Ogott's.
They moved in 1962
To Bluebell.
To Bluebell.
And that's an interesting one too, Harry, because I've done a lot of research on writers in this area, and A.W. Tillinghast wrote for two different newspapers every Sunday from like 1911 to 1919, first for the Public Ledger, then for the Philadelphia Record. And he was known as an architect, yet he did very little work around the Philadelphia area, curiously enough.
Except Wissahickon course at cricket.
Wissahickon cricket, and the one that you just mentioned, the original site for Cedarbrook,
Really?
was the Tillinghast course.
How about that? And it no longer is there. I think there's homes up there, and they kept it for a golf course for maybe 9 holes or an executive course for a while, but it's gone. How about that? That was a Tilly design as well.
Sometimes you're not highly revered in your hometown. You know, like you're just some kid that grew up here that played golf or something. And actually, he moved his office to North Jersey because he was more popular up there.
And I think he died in Southern California. He had an antique shop. I saw on Golf Channel, they did a feature on Tilly that he and his wife opened an antique shop out in Southern California, in Beverly Hills.
Yeah, I think he ended up, my friends will say, well, you got a lot of facts wrong on this show. I think he ended up dying in Ohio,
In
strangely
Toledo.
enough.
Was in Toledo.
Yes.
With living with a daughter.
Yes.
How about that?
Right.
Yeah. You know, it's we're talking about old courses that aren't around anymore. Let's, in the last couple minutes of our segment, we have about a minute to go. Ski Regal won the USAM at Pebble Beach, and this year it is going to host, of course, the U.S. Open. You probably have a little history on that. In 45 seconds, can you give it to us, what he did?
Can't do it in 45 seconds,
No.
but anyway, he just was an awesome character. As well as being a great golfer, he was great on the rules of golf. He knew as much as anybody that worked for the USGA. He was a very smart person.
And a late bloomer when it came to the game.
He didn't hit his first golf ball until he was about 23.
And how old when he won the AM? In his late 20s?
He won it, he must, 1947. He must have been around 31 when he was on 2 Walker Cups. He never lost a match. And
finished second in the Masters one year.
Second, it looked like he had it won, but Hogan came in and nipped him. And those days you didn't really play together because of galleries. They tried to separate the galleries, so they separated the people with the high scores. And he was in maybe an hour before Hogan, and then Hogan came in with a 68 or 9 and beat him. And so anyway,
he was a character as well as a great golfer.
He was everything.
If you knew him, you knew he was a great player. A little bit of a character, not necessarily in that order, but it's always great to talk about the late Ski Regal. All right, stay with us. More to talk about golf courses no longer around, including some recent additions to Pete Trenum's list. That's next on Inside Golf.
At Citadel, we're here, and here, and here. Whether you're managing money, purchasing a new home, or saving for that special moment, we are here for you. Citadel, banking with one focus, you.
Welcome back to Inside Golf here at St. David's. Pete Trenum, Joe Bausch. We're talking about courses that were and some courses that had different names that have moved on in the Philadelphia section of the PGA with these 2 historians. Gentlemen, let's talk about some recent closures. It seems like in the last couple of years there have been a few, Pete.
One notable one is they just closed the South Course at Philmont.
Right, we talked about the North and Willie Park Jr.
Yeah, they're mowing the grass on a couple holes where you drive in just to make it look like it's kept up, but basically the South Course is now closed.
They're retaining 3 of the holes for the members to be able to still use.
So they'll have 21 holes instead of just
It'll be the 18 hole on the North Course, and then I'm guessing kind of like a 3-hole practice loop or something.
Some other ones, I know Center Square, a public course off of Route 73, Montgomery County.
Also, it was worth more not being a golf course than it was being a golf course. Edgemont closed just the last couple of years.
Our good friend Ed Doherty, who went on to some big and great things on the PGA Tour and the Champions Tour, got his start there, right?
Yeah, that's right.
At Edgemont.
And the Brandywine is down in Wilmington, just south of the Pennsylvania line. A developer bought it a couple of years ago, and the members, it got to the point where they didn't have many members, and it was the best opportunity they had was to sell. And
right.
So anyway, but Joe has one that I never heard of that just closed.
Yes, I think last year the Philadelphia Quartet Club closed.
Northeast Philadelphia, I believe.
Philadelphia.
Southampton Road.
Correct.
Off the boulevard.
It was a simple golf course, to say
Small,
the least. 9-hole.
Like an executive style course?
9-hole, I think it was all par 3s.
Okay.
That is no more.
Had it been there a while, Joe, as a golf course? I know the Quartet Club is a social club, swimming pool.
Yes, that course had been there, this one I can't remember how long. I think the Quartet Club goes back to the 60s, that golf course.
Okay. You know, some courses have gone through, too, some major renovations. They're still in the same location. Maybe not under the same name, but under the same, like Melrose, okay,
yes.
Which is right outside the city limits off of Tookanee Creek Parkway. First place I ever looped was at Melrose back in the 50s, and you were telling me prior to Tookanee Creek being established, the parkway that is, the creek was there, it was a whole different golf course.
Very much so. Some of the original course is still there. We can maybe back up a little bit. Before, that site was known as Curtis Country Club, so there was kind of a simple golf course there. Then, I forget exactly when Melrose was, it was late 20s. And the newspapers were all talking about this course coming, being an Alistair McKenzie course, and he was kind of the figurehead. It was really Perry Maxwell who did the hard work, had a location located nearby there, and built that golf course. It sort of changed the golf course. It eventually became associated with the Penn Athletic Club. I think that had to do with the Depression and money issues, so it became the Penn Athletic Club. Then at some point, I think you know better than I do, when that Tuckanee Parkway went through, that really changed that golf course to where it's still fine, but it used to be really, really good.
Yeah, you have about maybe 5 or 6 holes on one side of Tuckanee Creek, and the rest are on the other. Very hilly course, a lot of ups and downs over at Melrose.
Yes, there's still some good golf holes left there. Then there's some awkward holes because of how they changed it to deal with that road going through.
Up in Bucks County, we were talking before the show started about the Bucks County Country Club, which is now known as the Bucks Club. Bucks County Country Club was private. Bucks Club is open to the public. But you told me it even had another name prior to being Bucks County Country Club.
Called York Road, or Old York. It was called Old York Road Golf Club, where Ski Regal was a part owner of it. And
So there's Ski Regal again getting involved.
Right,
Huh?
yeah.
Of course, he had that great driving range. We talked about that before on Cottman Avenue in Northeast Philadelphia. Best French fries in Philadelphia were at the little snack bar.
There was a
Ski's driving range.
There was a Warrington Country Club right up near there too.
How about that? That's going to do it as we look back. Courses that were no longer around, or were and have moved on under another name. Fascinating half hour with Pete Trenum, Joe Bosch. Thanks, gentlemen, for your perspective in history.
Thank you.
Thank you.
That's going to do it for this week's edition of Inside Golf. I'm Harry Donahue. Remember, no matter how bad it's going for you out there, don't pick up. Hope you enjoyed our little history lesson today, and we'll see you next week on Inside Golf.
Inside Golf is presented by Destination Montco Golf. 54 courses, 300,000 yards. Check them out at montcogolf.com. By the First Tee of Philadelphia. The First Tee helps young men and women become better golfers, but most important, better people. Get involved. Visit thefirsttphiladelphia.org. By the Golf Association of Philadelphia, GAP, celebrating amateur golf since 1897. By Jersey Man Magazine, it's a Jersey way of life. And by Philly Man Magazine, bringing it to Broad Street. By the Haverford Trust Company. Quality is in our DNA. And by Inside Golf's partner since 1998, the Philadelphia Section PGA, experts in the game and business of golf. Take time to thank your local PGA golf professional.